Hello folks, welcome back. In this video, we are going to discuss TestNG assertions. Okay, so this is a very important topic, so I definitely do suggest or advise that you take a lot of notes down because this is going to be the heart of your automated testing. Okay, so assertions. Assertions are used to validate that certain conditions or expected outcomes are met during automated testing. Assertions help ensure that your web application functions as expected. You can perform assertions using different libraries or methods, but the most common approach is to use either the JUnit library or the TestNG library along with Selenium. The most common ways to assert are using the assert equals method or the assert true method that are static methods from the assert class. Now, the assert class, well, both of these libraries, JUnit and TestNG, have an assert class and have their own assert methods. They're actually very similar and in most cases have almost the same name. Now, in this video, we are going to discuss how to perform assertions using the TestNG library because that's what's most common for assertions, at least in the industry at the time of this video. But you can do a lot of this with the JUnit library as well, and it would, for the most part, work very similar. Okay, so let's go ahead and see how we can do this. So first of all, we're talking about working with another library. Okay, in order to integrate another library in our framework, we need to add a dependency. Okay, and that dependency that we need to add is the TestNG dependency. Okay, so let's go over to the Maven Central repository. I'm going to go ahead and just look this up again, and I'll go ahead and do this with you. So let's go ahead and type in TestNG. I'm going to click on the first dependency here. You want to click on the one that says org.testng, or if you read it the other way around, it's testng.org. Okay. Once you're here, go ahead and select the latest version, whatever number you see, whatever version you see, go ahead and select that. I'm selecting the latest version at the time of this video. Okay. So that's 7.8.0. So once we're here, we're going to go ahead and just click on this or highlight everything, copy it, and then we're going to come back to our POM here, okay, and we're going to add another dependency. So the last dependency we added was the Selenium dependency in the beginning of the course, but now we're going to go ahead and add another dependency here. Remember that dependency goes within the dependencies open and closing tags, so this one and this one down here. So what I like to do is I like to go to the last dependency here, hit the enter or return key a couple times, and then paste the dependency, and then I'm going to go ahead and format this XML file. So I'm going to do Control-Shift-F like this, and then I'm going to go ahead and save my changes. In VS Code, once you save your changes, VS Code will actually download these jar files here into your project. Okay, so go ahead and do that, and then once you're done, let's go ahead and close this pom.xml. By the way, I do want to mention something right here. You see that we have a new open and closing tag, which is called scope here, and it says test. We actually don't have this with the Selenium library. We do have this with the JUnit dependency here, which was generated and created and stored here by default when we created this Maven project. Just leave this for now. We're going to go ahead and talk about what this is later on in the later videos. Okay, so go ahead and add this dependency, save your changes, and then close the pom.xml so that we don't accidentally make any mistake here. Okay, so I went ahead and created a class called hard_assertions. Okay, and first I'm going to introduce what hard asserts are. Okay, and I was going to write the code out and then explain everything to you, but I decided to type this out because there are some points I like to point out. Okay, so in this class called hard_assertions, I created a main method, and here we have code that we've been using in the previous videos where we are instantiating the Chrome browser, maximizing the browser, deleting cookies. We have an implicit wait here, and then we're navigating to the practice side. Okay, we've been doing this throughout the whole course. Now here, what I want to do is this. I want to verify. Here you see on line 23, I'm getting the title of the web page, okay, and I'm storing it in a variable called actual page title of type string. I'm going to discuss in just a moment why I'm calling it actual page title. On line 24, I have a string here that I've declared. I've stored it into a variable called expected page title of type string, and this is what we are expecting. Okay, so what I want to do is once I get the title of this page, I want to verify that the title that's being retrieved by Selenium is the expected text that we want to see, the expected page title, okay? But the thing is, if I go ahead and run this, right, it's going to pass. The syntax is good. Everything seems good. If I go ahead and print out the title, that doesn't do anything really. So if I come here and I do, let me print this out and do actual page title. So if I go ahead and run this, it's really not doing anything to the program. Printing out something is doing absolutely nothing to your program. It's just printing something in the debug console, but that's not verifying anything. We want to be able to write some code that will verify an expected result to an actual result from the web page. Okay, that's the whole point of assertions, and that's why it's the heart of your automated testing, because if we don't have any assertions, we cannot call this an automated test because it's not testing anything. Okay, if right here, what this is called, what you see here is just called an automated script. Okay, we're just automating opening the browser, navigating to a website, printing out the page title, and then quitting the browser. That's all we're doing, but it's not testing anything. Okay, and then that's what we want to do. So I'm going to go ahead and delete this line 24 here. Okay, I do want to say that even if you created some if statement saying like if title is this, then print out this, that's still not verifying anything. Okay, now that's why we are going to use assertions. So one more thing, one pop question for you here. You notice that I'm getting the title of the page and storing it in a variable called actual page title, but then I have the expected page title. So my question to you is, how do we know what is expected within our applications? Okay, and the answer to that is, go ahead and pause the video and try to think of the answer. Okay, well, if you pause the video and you return, the answer to this is it's always specified within the requirements of your project. Okay, so we are not making up or assuming what is expected. Remember that with projects, okay, everything is documented and there should be requirements. Okay, and whatever the requirements specify, that's what we are expecting. Okay, so in this case, we are going to assume that we have a requirement where the expected page title is Chroma Tech Academy. Okay, so what we want to do here is this. Okay, we want to type in, we want to use one of the assert methods from the TestNG library. Okay, we've already added the TestNG library within our pom.xml. So what we're going to do is we're going to use the assert class, and you notice as I'm typing it down, we have a few options. Here's where you want to be careful. Okay, you want to use the assert class from the TestNG library. Pay very close attention to this. This is where a lot of folks make mistakes and then their programs work a little bit different, because this is where it all starts. You want to use the assert class from the TestNG library. Okay, so let's go ahead and select this. Once we do this, you'll see that an import statement will be added from the TestNG library here. If you see this import tag here, this import statement here, then that means that you've imported this correctly. Okay, then after this, we just discussed that we can either use the assert true method or the assert equals method. Let's start with the assert equals method first. Okay, so I'm going to do dot assert. Okay, and you notice the moment that I'm typing this out, we see a lot of methods here that are called assert equals. Okay, well, we have one assert true. Let me go ahead and just type in assert equals so you can see here. So we can only see the assert equals methods. Okay, now, very interesting. If you remember when we discussed the object-oriented programming concepts of Java, we said that there is a concept called polymorphism, right? And in order to achieve polymorphism in Java, you either have to implement method overloading or method overriding. Okay. Now this again, I'm going to remind you of this. This right here, these methods right here are overloaded. If you don't remember what method overloading is, it's basically the concept of having methods within the same class with the same names, but there are different rules we have to follow. For example, the methods need to have different number of parameters or different type of parameters, or the order of parameters have to be different. Okay, so here you see that we have a lot of overloaded methods. You see assert equals, right? And then we keep going, we keep going, we keep going. There are a lot of assert equals methods within the assert class of the TestNG library. So the thing is, this assert equals method, if you actually go ahead and select each of them, or you can also actually read the method descriptions of these as well, you can pass multiple arguments to verify either two objects or two integers here, so for two doubles, even maps or different objects, and so on. It gives you the opportunity to verify different type of objects, okay, in many different ways, okay? So the best advice here, and here you may ask yourself a question like, why do these have stars here, right, and the other ones don't? That's because these four are the more commonly used methods within this assert class, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and just select the first one, okay? And it actually doesn't matter which one you select. What matters is the type of arguments that you pass through these methods, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and click on this. And by default already, this method called these variables that I've declared here, but I'm going to go ahead and delete it because we should not expect an ID to do that for us. We want to be able to control this part. Okay, so let's stop right here. If we hover over the assert equals method, it tells us right here that this method here expects two arguments. Here's one argument and here's another argument. Right now it's actually pointing to the method where it's expecting a byte for two arguments. That's okay. We can go ahead and change this. The moment that we add our arguments, the method will change to what it's going to be using, okay? So for example, here we want to compare two strings, okay? Strings are objects, so this method will change and you'll see that. But one thing I want to point about this is this: the first argument needs to be the actual result, okay? And the second argument needs to be the expected result. So if we look at a program here, the actual result, and that's why I called it actual page title, because this is what's actually on the website. This is the actual title of the web page, okay? This is what Selenium is actually retrieving, okay? But what are we expecting? Right? We are expecting this. So that's why I hard coded this here for now. Okay. So let's go ahead and pass the actual argument first. Okay. Well, we are the actual argument here, actual page title. And then the second argument is going to be what we are expecting. So we're expecting this. Okay. Now, go ahead and save your changes. If I hover over the assert equals methods, you see that the method changed to what we are using it for. Okay, so it changed by default. This is why it doesn't matter which method you select. As long as you pass corresponding arguments, then VS Code will know which method to use, okay, or at least the compiler will know. Okay, so now what is this method going to do? What this method is going to do is it's going to verify if this value and this value match, okay? And if all goes well, then the program will continue to run, everything will be smooth, and we won't see anything, okay? If they don't match, we will see an exception thrown, or actually it's called an assertion error, okay? But let's go ahead and see how this works, okay? I'm gonna go ahead and run this program like this, okay? So the browser opens, and let's see, there you go. The program continued, and eventually it did driver.quit. There were no exceptions encountered here. That means that this passed right here. Okay. Now, this is good. This is what we want. But let's say that the values were different. I'm going to go ahead and go into the string and just add a space or add some extra characters or something. Just go ahead and change it up. Okay. Now let's go ahead and run the program and see if this is exactly what we are getting. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and run this. And the browser opens and you see it gets stuck. Okay, an exception was encountered. So if we scroll this up, let me go ahead and terminate this execution. If I scroll this up in the debug console, okay, we see an exception, right? And the exception is actually called an assertion error. In the later videos, I'll talk about how assertion errors compare to exceptions and why we treat these as exceptions even though they're called assertion errors or errors, okay? So you see here, the most important thing about this is this. It tells us what we are expecting. We're expecting Chroma Tech Academy with a space at the end, but found Chroma Tech Academy without a space at the end. Okay, so this is why the program failed, okay? An exception was thrown, and this stack trace message actually takes you to the line of code, to the line of where this exception failed, okay? That's how this method works, and this is very useful. So now we are finally testing something, okay? We're finally verifying something, and here in this example, we're just comparing the page titles, okay? Something very simple, okay? Now, here's the thing though, okay? You can also add a message along with these comparisons if you want, okay? So if you go ahead and add another argument like comma and then a string argument like this, you can say something like verifying, let's see, verifying page title, okay? Now, this is not mandatory. This is just optional if you want, and I'll show you how it helps, okay? I'm going to run this program again. So I'm going to go ahead and run it. Okay, and all I'm adding there is a message along with that assertion, and that message will only display if the assertion fails. So you see here, or sorry, if an exception is thrown. So we see the message here, and this helps a lot because if you're a QA and you're having some assertion errors thrown, it's nice to kind of look at the stack trace message and see what it is that actually failed, even though this tells you enough here, right? But it's nice to kind of just write a message here and saying, hey, we're verifying the page title here, and we had an assertion error, so something failed here, something went wrong, okay? And again, if the stack trace message I want to mention again, right, get in the habit of viewing these stack trace message. If you go ahead and in most cases with most stack trace messages, they will point to the line of code wherever that exception is happening, okay? So this is how an assertion works, or at least what we call a hard assert. Now, there is no such class called hard assert, and that's important to note. And I'll remind you guys in the next video because we're going to be working with soft assertions, okay? Now, it's called a hard assert because when the program fails, okay, when there's when an assertion error is encountered, okay, the program automatically terminates, okay? So here's the thing, in the later videos we're going to discuss other assertions as well, but if I wanted to, for example, just print something out here, like I'll say testing, okay, or even driver.quit here, if an assertion error is thrown here for line 27, the program automatically terminates and Selenium just stops right there, okay? That is why this is called a hard assert, okay? It will terminate your program if an assertion error is encountered. If I go ahead and run this again, you're going to see we won't even see testing print out here, okay? Let's go ahead and run it. Let me go ahead and close this browser. And you see the program never made it to this point here, okay? Line 29. It just did not continue, okay? And in some cases, we may want this to happen, but in some cases, we probably want the program to continue, so that's what we're going to discuss, okay? Now, go ahead and write this code out, okay? And in the next videos, we're going to talk more about assertions.